The Jalisco cartel, which formed in 2010, is Sinaloa's most powerful and violent rival. The organization has rapidly spread throughout Mexico and is one of the country's most powerful organized crime syndicates. Its assets are estimated to be valued at more than $20 billion, or 15.5 billion euros. The U.S. government is offering a $10 million reward for the apprehension of the chief of the Jalisco cartel. So, in today's video, we're going to talk about the Cjng's net worth, assets, and how much the cartel is worth, as well as how much money they bring in. So, let's get started. According to the U.S. authorities, the Jalisco cartel is one of the continent's leading traffickers of synthetic pharmaceuticals. It is a major player in the illegal amphetamine market in the United States and Europe, and it's also known to have ties to the Asian drug industry. Its power has expanded significantly in recent years, and its growth has been fueled by the use of severe violence. According to the US-based geopolitical analysis firm Stratfor, it remains the most aggressive cartel in Mexico. Its efforts to expand its area of authority are largely to blame for the ongoing wave of violence raging through Tijuana, Juarez, Guanajuato, and Mexico City. Indeed, the cartel has become well known for a series of attacks on security agents and public authorities. It's used a rocket-propelled grenade to drop an LMA helicopter, killed dozens of state officials, and it's even been known to hang the bodies of its victims on bridges to terrify its opponents. According to specialists in the region, it will continue to grow. The U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration believes that Mencho Oseguera Cervantes, alias El Mencho, the leader of Mexico's Jalisco cartel new generation and a major target of both U.S. and Mexican officials in recent years, may be worth $1 billion. According to Univision, El Mencho has lost luxurious cabins built on a lagoon on Mexico's Pacific coast, more than 100 Japanese restaurants, shopping malls, newspapers, real estate, a tequila brand that tried to export to Europe, gold bars used to launder money, and even a ranch with exotic animals, including a Bengal tiger and endangered birds. El Mencho's riches were previously unknown. Although the figure provided by the Drug Enforcement Administration is simply an estimate, it does indicate the scope of drug traffic that he oversees. I'd guess he's worth at least $500 million, and possibly more than $1 billion. Kyle Morey told Univision. Morey leads the DEA team tasked with locating El Mencho. Univision stated a few days ago that El Mencho might be hiding in the mountainous portions of 3 Mexican states controlled by his criminal organization. The Jalisco Cartel New Generation, Cartel Jalisco Nueva Generación, Cjng, commits several violent actions, including beheadings, acid dissolution, public executions, pulling out people's hearts, killing women and children, and planting bombs on people. It occurs virtually every day. El Chapo was brutal, but El Mencho takes it to a whole new level. According to the 37-year-old DEA agent, the Cjng is today the greatest criminal organization in Mexico, equaling the number of narcotics delivered by the Sinaloa cartel in the United States. In my perspective, the Cjng moves drugs to the U.S., is responsible for more violence in Mexico, and moves more money than the Sinaloa cartel, he concluded. The Jalisco cartel is held responsible for most illegal substances entering the United States. El Mencho's organization obtains millions of dollars via gasoline theft and gun smuggling in addition to drug trafficking. The Jalisco cartel now has a presence of at least 20 Mexican states, including Mexico City, and it's said to have operating bases in the state of Jalisco and Colima. El Mencho is said to prefer using Pacific channels to transport quantities of drugs, importing cocaine from Colombia and ephedrine from China via the Colima port of Manzanillo. The Jalisco cartel overcame La Resistencia and took control of the smuggling networks of the Milenio cartel. In barely 6 months, the Jalisco New Generation cartel expanded its operation network from coast to coast, making it one of Mexico's most powerful criminal organizations in 2012. The Sinaloa cartel, once led by Joaquin Guzman Loera, has previously used the Jalisco New Generation cartel as an armed wing to fend off Los Zetas on Guzman's turf, and to conduct incursions into other territories, such as Nuevo Laredo and Veracruz. Homicides, kidnappings, and the discovery of mass graves increased in Jalisco following the formation of the Cjng cartel. Currently, the Cjng is claimed to have over 100 methamphetamine labs throughout Mexico, in addition to armed confrontations, petroleum theft, and criminal extortion. Based on typical street value, these volumes might generate up to $8.1 billion in cocaine and $4.6 billion in crystal meth per year. Mexico's Financial Intelligence Unit issued a statement on June 2, 2020, announcing that the agency was able to uncover a considerable number of members of said criminal organization, as well as its main financial operators and companies utilized in money laundering, as a consequence of a combined operation with the DEA. The Financial Intelligence Unit of Mexico, a branch of the Finance Ministry entrusted with detecting and preventing money laundering, then managed to freeze 1,770 bank accounts associated with the Cjng. Bank accounts for 16 CJNG-connected firms and 2 trusts were also frozen. Armed assailants stormed a live CJNG-provided performance on May 29th of 2020 in Tierra Blanca, Veracruz, injuring 2 and killing 6. Francisco Nevarete Serna, our area CJNG leader and owner of the local El Sol de Tierra Blanca newspaper, and the entire lineup of La Calle, the band Serna, was performing there, with among those killed. On June 3rd, it was announced that the total amount of CJNG-linked assets frozen was $1.1 billion. The CJNG's approach to dominate the American drug trade has been replicated in town after town, with law enforcement seeking to sniff out the cartel's new networks. According to federal court records, their war has raged across America for the past 7 years. CJNG employed local drug dealers to transport meth into the poor, dependent mountain community of Hickory, North Carolina. Before law authorities shut down their small redneck drug peddling ring, one couple established their own. Investigators covered a covert tub of stash homes managed by alleged CJNG members in Axton, Virginia, as a part of a drug trafficking chain in Virginia that expanded to other mid-Atlantic states. Cartel members in Omaha, Nebraska purchased cars with drug revenues and resold them in Mexico, another method of laundering the cartel's cash. In an ongoing investigation, the FBI dismantled the ring. In Gulfport, Mississippi, a state trooper working with the DEA task force nearly apprehended El Mencho after tracking texts sent to him by his girlfriend in a Mexican hideout. He sent her $1 million in drugs. CJNG bosses enforce discretion to avoid police scrutiny as they build their lucrative narcotics networks in the United States. According to agents, El Mencho expects cartel members and associates in America to avoid violence, hide cash, and conceal their CJNG links. However, some CJNG executives broke the regulations. Between 2013 and 16, members of the Kansas City cartel cell with drug houses in both Kansas and Missouri splurged on $10,000 tickets to rapper Pitbull's performance in a Louis Vuitton purse. In a 2019 federal court case, an accused cartel lieutenant linked to Chicago drug trafficking settled into a $2 million Nashville property. Despite El Mencho's warnings, other bosses employed threats of violence throughout the United States. A Guadalajara merchant working with CJNG pressured an informant in Chicago money laundering case to settle his drug debt promptly, citing how cartel members settled another man's debt. They hacked off his fingers. In court, federal prosecutors claimed that convicted drug trafficker Jesus Enrique Palomera, a commander of a cartel cell in Tacoma, Washington, ordered the kidnapping and the murder of a man whose fingers and toes were severed, a standard form of torture in Mexico. Palomera stated during a brief phone call from prison in August 2019 that he's a family man who never hurt anybody. "I know I'm not that person," he said flatly, declining to clarify. "My family is aware that I'm not that person. I don't give a damn what the prosecutor says." On August 27th, on Thursday in 2020, U.S. Attorney in the Northern District of Texas, Aaron Neely Cox, stated that a Mexican cartel head and 27 co-conspirators were charged for laundering more than $10 million in drug earnings through a local clothes business. A federal grand jury charged 28 people connected to Cartel Jalisco Nueva Generación, one of Mexico's most violent and powerful drug cartels, with conspiracy to launder monetary instruments and other financial, drug, gun crimes, including conspiracy to distribute methamphetamine, conspiracy to distribute heroin, and undocumented alien possession of a firearm. Drug cartels like CJNG wreak devastation around the world, fueling the spread of dangerous substances like meth and heroin. U.S. Attorney Neely Cox said, "We're committed to following the money and destabilizing these organizations by going after their bottom line. We can influence the organization more if we strike both the money and the drugs. Drug addiction has many different faces. The addiction to money and greed has met its end in this case," said Eduardo A. Chavez, special agent in charge of the DEA Dallas Field Division. Regardless of CJNG's effort to conceal their illegal activities in our North Texas communities, the DEA will seek to deprive it of every last drug dollar and bring justice to all of those involved. According to court documents, Jose Valdovinos Jimenez, a plaza boss known as La Roca, or The Rock, allegedly conspired with his co-defendants to smuggle hundreds of kilograms of methamphetamine and heroin across the Mexican border, distribute the drugs within the U.S., launder the proceeds, and then transfer the money back to CJNG leaders. Mr. Jimenez and other CJNG leaders implemented a compartmentalized infrastructure to insulate themselves from law enforcement activity and limit the losses from law enforcement raids, relying on couriers to smuggle drugs across the border, recrystallization laboratories to purify drugs for sale, fortified stash houses to store drugs before distribution, and a multi-level dealer network to handle the cash. Mid- and upper-level dealers were directed by Mr. Jimenez to transport drug proceeds to Yoli's Western Wear, a clothing retailer on Buckner Boulevard in Dallas. Ivan No Valerio, A 23-year-old manager of Yoli's and his family members then counted the money and separated it into thousands of transactions before sending it back to Cjng in Mexico via a money remitter. So it was all about the Cjng's net worth assets. We hope that you enjoyed today's video. Please like and subscribe to our channel. And what are your thoughts on Cjng's valuable assets? Please let us know in the comment section below. We'll see you in the next one.